Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Conteh. Thank you for being here again. Uh, we want to also thank our audience for being here with us this day after Eid prayers in the Gambia. We want to wish all Gambians, all those celebrating Eid, the very best Eid Adha prayers. We also want to wish the entire Gambian population the very best on this occasion. Um, uh, our session today is going to be quite brief. I know a lot of people in the Gambia have traveled, and many are still with the hangover of yesterday's feast. Lots of food and steak to eat. So it was quite festive, I'm sure, no doubt. It's a little bit different for the rest of us in the Western world. But we want to wish everybody the very best. I hope everybody had a good time. Those who celebrated. Dr. Conteh, we have a very short session today. We want to look at a couple of things. One is the World Bank intervention into the Gambia's tourism sector. It's been reported in the Gambia last week that the World Bank just released $68 million grant to help the Gambian tourism sector. So we will look at that a little bit in depth. And we will also look at the announcement that PURA is the regulating body in the Gambia. And they have announced that they are going to look at regulating the mobile internet market in the Gambia, the GSM sector in the Gambia. They are claiming that mobile internet prices are extremely high in the Gambia as compared to other countries in Africa. So I think Gambia, according to them, ranks 8 in terms of mobile internet prices in the whole of Africa. So that seems to be quite a high number, according to them, and they are going to look at possibilities of regulating these. So we will look at that also, Dr. Conteh, briefly, and I'm hoping we should be able to wrap this up under 1 hour today. But first off, Dr. Conteh, the tourism sector has just received or about to receive some funds to reform the tourism sector in the Gambia. Tourism is a major contributor to the Gambian economy. It is the second largest contributor to GDP in the Gambia, apart from next only to agriculture. I think tourism may be poised to overtake agriculture, actually, because service industry, which is largely the tourism sector, has overtaken manufacturing in the Gambia. So, Dr. Conteh, the funding to the Ministry of Tourism is said to be directed to 4 major areas. That is to devise a policy framework. The policy framework will have to do with how to operationalize, how the tourism sector will function, how the policies that will direct the reform process of the tourism sector. And then they will also look at the diversification or resilience of the tourism sector, how to diversify, how to expand the tourism sector into many different areas to build some kind of resilience, sustainability, and durability into tourism sector growth. So that will be a second area that the investment will target. Also, the investment will target micro, small, and medium enterprise participation in the tourism sector. So it is hoped that small businesses, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises will participation in the tourism sector will be enhanced by this investment. So we know this is a very important part of the tourism sector, and we would all like to see this sector participate more because the benefit of the tourism is extended to the larger population through micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And this is where the population directly benefits from tourism. So we want to see more participation of these groups in the tourism sector. And the last area that the investment would target will be to support infrastructure development related to tourism. And I think this part is a very critical area also. And Dr. Conteh, I am always of the view that the government's function in tourism should be really, really very limited. And I tend to argue that the Gambia without even need a tourism ministry at all. The government limited role in as far as tourism is concerned is to build the infrastructure, create the infrastructure, the enabling environment for tourism to flourish, so that the participants in the tourism sector, travel and leisure industry, which will be mainly run by the private sector, can directly benefit from the benefits of the incentives that are in the tourism market. So infrastructure development with regards to tourism and general infrastructure development in the country, because we must not exclude or separate out tourism from the rest of the Gambian economy. I think this is not a mutually exclusive thing. When we develop infrastructure in the country, we are also developing infrastructure for tourism. So government needs to focus more on infrastructure development and incentivize or help create an enabling environment for tourism to flourish. Tourism directed largely by the private sector to flourish and benefit the people more directly than through the government. Unlike like the Vice President, Dr. Juve, or Mr. Aliou Badara Juve argued earlier during the retreat of the ministers at the Sadauda Kairaba Conference Center earlier, I think last month. The all-inclusive package tourism to the Gambia needs to be looked at because of the fact that all-inclusive might be convenient for some tourists, but it, in a way, cutting off direct benefit of the private sector, the Gambian population, from the benefits of tourism, right? So we would like to have the city tourists able to get out of the hotels and get into the communities and access community resources, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, micro enterprises, and invest, spend their monies in the local markets, and directly put money into the pockets of those business people, rather than having the tourists exclusively stay within the hotels uh, through the all-inclusive packages. So I am in support of that, Dr. Conteh. But I think really the government need to focus more on supporting infrastructure development, and once the infrastructure is there, the enabling environment is there, I think tourism sector will be a very attractive area for private investment, and because there'll be this benefit of directly um, reaping the rewards of the tourism sector. So that is my view on this, Dr. Conte, and um, unfortunately, some of these, the government called this a grant. So I hope it is a grant, that this is not a loan that needs to be repaid by the Gambian people. Um, so if it's a grant, that is very welcoming. Um, but there has to be prudence in the way this money is spent. And I'm worried that a big chunk of the money may be spent on what is called policy framework development. These are very fluid terms. Um, I don't know. This time, I would expect Gambia to have some policy framework already with regards to tourism. So, policy framework development is, in my view, a very fluid term, and the government needs to be very careful about how prudently this money is spent. The money needs to be spent in a way that benefits the tourism sector and that benefits the um, diversification and resilience development of the tourism sector in a way that benefits the Gambian people, rather than paying people for conferences and validation workshops and all that stuff in the name of policy framework development. Dr. Conte, what's your view on this?
Well, for me, when it comes to World Bank, thank you, for allowing me to speak. Uh, when it comes to World Bank, I have no trust in World Bank because World Bank's objective is to keep developing countries poor. And one has to take a look at, even here in the United States, people who are on welfare. Government restricts you not to own more than either 2,000 or 5,000 US dollars. So, and then when they give us grant, because I'm looking at where the World Bank gives out grant, and there's argument here about the value of World Bank because we tend to extend our hands and they want to try to give us money, even if it is in grant money. I can tell you 75% of the grant money is going to go back. So, okay, so policy wise, whatever they're going to do with regard to policy, they're going to have expatriates coming in. And those expatriates going to be paid at the prevailing uh, fair market pay rate in the individual countries, not the Gambian rate. And they're going to live in very expensive hotels in the Gambia. And then by the time whatever project they've done, almost 40 million of that will go back. Okay. So now, what I'm kind of it used to be back in the day during tourism. You can even know that there is tourism. But now, if you go to Gambia around November, December, January, you hardly even know we have tourism. Another one here is that this includes all inclusive. I support the vice president, and that's why I think anything that we are trying to say or we will say, we should just hide behind him when he talks about transparency. What I'm not going to accuse anyone of trying to take the money for corruption and so forth. But we have been blessed with water, 365 kilometers. I think we need to have aquatourism. But do we have the infrastructure in place where these tourists can even spend the night? Zero. So that being the case, we should develop. We should tend to look at what we can do in terms of aquatourism, because in Virginia they have what we call Virginia Dare, and in Smith Mountain Lake they also have a floating ship that runs man-made lake, and they have hotels in them in the ship. So I think if we can have that, that will help us a lot. So we also have to take a look at most of these tourists and their friends in respective countries. They buy land in the Gambia and build. So if I'm from Scandinavia, I'm coming down on a tourist on a visit to the Gambia. This person has state of the art house in the Gambia. So all I have to do is to rent from him and stay there. And Gambians now are beginning to do that is instead of renting to folks. So that being the case, but we don't have the roads. There's so much congestion, but it's all good if this is going to be put into meaningful use. But I still do believe that. Do we have a report on the percentage, with the exception of with the exception of employment? Do we have any statistics on what Gambian businesses benefit from tourism?
I doubt it. But like you said, that will be very interesting to look at. I hope in the end these things are reported on, and we see a real financial breakdown of how these monies are spent and the projected value to the population, to the Gambian economy. But as far as I know, I probably have limited access, but it will be interesting to take a look at those kind of documentations.
Okay, and then another concern that I have. So we are not paying attention to the ferry mess that we have in our country. So if we have reliable ferry system in the country, that is like it's a likelihood that most of the people who live in Yomi, sorry, in the combo from Yomi or Badibu or Jokadu, may try to move over down there. So whatever we can do, it will be helpful for our country. So I support all that, but I think even though tourism plays an integral role in our economy, there are so many pressing issues right now that we need to take a look at. Our hospitals are in shambles. Uh, as the whole country doesn't have what is this EKG or something that they scan you.
Right.
It's not in the country. People have to go to Senegal. For what? And if we can know how much that is, why can the government concentrate on those things? Improve the health of the country. Tourism, and I do agree with you that tourism, in my view, should be privatized. And or even if the government try wants to still keep tourism, I think it should also be part of Ministry of Trade and make tourism a department rather than having it as a full-fledged.
Ministry.
Yeah, but again, we don't have any. We won't have any itemized expenditure, and the World Bank is not going to give Gambia 68 million cash. That's not going to happen. The grant money, technical assistance, I can tell you 60% of that money is going back to the donor.
Gotcha.
So that's all I have to say. But again, We want to make sure that we help the government, but if they are willing to take our advice, it'll be very good because that's how you can develop a nation, have dissenting views, have different ideas, and you develop your country. But we just cannot follow a doctrine knowing that that doctrine won't take us anywhere.
Thank you, Dr. Conteh. Very well said. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally, absolutely agree. Like you rightly said, my focus, and I hope the government pays attention to this, and not only this, but all these World Bank and IMF grants and technical assistance things, which are supposedly to be appear to Gambian people as free money. There's really no free money. There's no free lunch, really. And we need to look at the nitty gritties of these monies and how they are financed, how they are distributed in the economy. We have to focus on what benefits the Gambia. You have to, how do you know that? You have to break down these monies and look at how they are spent and whether uh, they actually benefit the Gambian people or not. If the bulk of the money is going to be used on exports coming from World Bank to do what? I don't even know. At some point we need to ask ourselves whether these things are really beneficial to us or they're just kind of keeping us down even further. But that's that on tourism. Dr. Conteh, we're going to move on to the GSM market, the mobile internet market in the Gambia. It is a given where I think most Gambians will agree that mobile internet prices, one can say internet prices are relatively high in the Gambia. PURA, I think PURA is the Public Utilities Regulatory Agency, I think, is the regulating body in the Gambia. So they have announced that they are going to start looking at ways. They actually suggesting that they're going to hire consultants, probably external consultants, which I'm really apprehensive of. I think we are relying too much on these external consultants. Pura should be able to conduct its own research into the market and be able to come up with conclusions that are reasonably accurate to be able to direct their policies towards whether they should regulate the internet market in the Gambia or not. So I don't see the reason or the need to hire external consultants and waste Gambian taxpayers' money on something that can be done effectively in the country. But that's what they're planning to do, I understand. And these are widely reported in the Gambian media as well. But Pura wants to look at the possibility of regulating the internet market in the Gambia in order to address the high internet prices in the country. Dr. Conteh, most Gambians will agree with um, this intervention if it actually comes to fruition. Um, so it is claimed that the Gambia is the eighth highest in Africa in terms of internet prices. But what I wanted to bring out, Dr. Conteh, and I think what Pura needs to understand, in my view, they probably already do, is that the internet market in the Gambia is still very, very small, right? In terms of, even if you look at the size of the population, being small as it is, still the number of internet users in the country is very, very small. I think earlier in our sessions, Alagi Jaude was with us, and he did a report on the IT situation in the country. And one of the information he put forward is that internet use in the Gambia is limited to only one quarter of the population. So only a quarter of the Gambian population have access to internet and are actually using internet. And many of that, the bulk of that, is coming from mobile use, not not the other ways. So if you look at
Okay, my help is Mr. Jad adjustment went off momentarily. So, oh, you're back. Okay, good,
yeah, yes, all right.
good.
So if you look at that situation, Doctor, it is going to be really difficult for internet providers in the country to actually bring their prices down because they do not benefit from the volume. The market is pretty tight. So if you look at, you have to have a large volume of sales in order to lower your marginal cost, right? So their ability to lower their prices will be dependent on what their marginal cost is. And so, be a very small and a tight market, um, I'm not going to say it is impossible, but I can understand why internet price is still high in the Gambia because it is a very small and a tight market. And also, the second factor, Doctor, is that there is a very small uh, number of participants, providers in the internet market in the Gambia. So it is kind of an oligopoly, right? It is not really a monopoly, but it's an oligopoly, I can say. It is largely run by a few powerful uh, participants, providers in the market. I think there might be only three or so participants in the market: Gamtel, QCell, and Afrocell, right? Uh, if that is right, it might be. I could be wrong on this, but I think there's only three or so providers in the market. So with that kind of a market situation, I think it is going to be really difficult to bring the prices down. But nonetheless, it will be worth looking at. Um, According to Jaune's report, only about a quarter of the Gambian population use internet, and this is like 580,000 people countrywide.
Mm.
And this report is by 2021, just last year. So even though, and I'm going to refer to Jaune's report again, internet use has been steadily increasing in the country. Actually, Alagi actually reported that the internet use has increased by like 4 million uh, from 2020 to 2021. This is like 164% of the population. Um, and this, we have to note, Dr. Conteh, is that perhaps a big part of this increase is coming from multiple users, people individual who use multiple phones. Like we know many of the well-to-do in the Gambia, uh, senior government officials, business people, successful business people have multiple phones, like maybe two, three, four different cell phones. So the increase is largely coming from these, not largely because of the expansion of internet use across the population, right? So we have to take note of that. But I just wanted to highlight these 2 points with regards to Pura's attempts to regulate the mobile internet industry in the Gambia. One point is they have to look at the marginal cost of these in this industry, being these companies are operating in a very small market, so they don't benefit very much from volume, uh, like their counterparts in Senegal or somewhere else might. So that could be part of. So their marginal cost may still remain relatively high when you look at when you compare them to other countries. So that's one thing one needs to pay attention to when you deal with a situation like this. And then the other area would be the limited size of providers in the country. We only have about 3 providers in the country. If there's a way to increase competition in this sector by having more businesses provide these services, that competition will force prices to come down a little bit, I would imagine. But otherwise, we just might have to brace for higher prices in this sector. Dr. Conte.
So I just gave you, I brought up the list.
Mhm.
Equatorial Guinea has thank you. Equatorial Guinea has the highest,
Okay.
and this is in US dollars, 1 gigabyte. Equatorial Guinea 49.67, followed by Sao Tome
Gotcha.
30, 31, Malawi $25, Chad 23, Namibia 22, Central African Republic $9, Seychelles $9, the Gambia $6 if we round it up. But we are not too far behind. Mauritania has 5.56. That's also $6. Uh, Madagascar $5. Gabon $5. Cape Verde Islands $5. Togo 5. Burkina Faso 5. Guinea-Bissau, can you believe 4.41? So they're doing a miracle. Maybe we need to, and our population is higher than Guinea-Bissau. So how come they have that? Look at Cape Verde Island and Botswana $4, Benin $4, uh, Mali. Can you believe $3.3? Sierra Leone $3, Comoros $3, Congo $3, Mozambique $3, South Africa $3. I'm rounding them up. Lesotho $3, Liberia $3, Cote d'Ivoire $3, uh, Kenya $2. Uh, what is this country? Eswatini $2, Burundi $2, Guinea. Can you believe Guinea Conakry?
Yeah.
$1.99. Ethiopia 171. Angola 1.61. Uganda $2. Niger $1. Rwanda $1. Zambia $1. Djibouti $1. Tunisia $1. Egypt $1. Senegal 94 cents. Cameroon 90 point nine, I would say 90 cents. Morocco 88 cents. Western Sahara, they have them now. 88. Nigeria 88 cents. Mayotte 82. What's this one here? Reunion $74. Tanzania, can you believe? 75. Libya 74.
Those are cents, right?
Yeah, 74 cents, yeah.
Yeah.
Ghana 66 cents. Uh, Somalia, among all places, 60 cents. Algeria 51. And lastly Sudan 22 cents. So where do we need to go to do this? To get consultants? This doesn't make any sense. You look at this list here. You can look at some of the countries, they are smaller than the Gambia. Djibouti is not bigger than the Gambia. How are they able to have that? In the Gambia, almost everyone has two cell phones, right?
Pretty much.
I remember way back in '96 when I had my first cell phone, what our job gave was phone. Uh, for you, if you use the phone, you just stay away from your cell phone until after 7 o'clock because they only give you 60 minutes.
Right.
Remember when you had they had SOSA when you call different area code numbers, what happens? They charge you more. But now it doesn't matter if you move anywhere, you can still keep your old telephone. So maybe this is what ECOWAS needs to do, regardless of whether we are far from each other, we are distinct countries. I think we should be able to say, well, yeah, our area code here, if I call Senegal, it shouldn't cost me anything. I think they need to work on that. And also, um, why do you need to have two cell phones? Because in the Gambia, if you call people and they have a different subscriber, they're not going to answer the telephone. They
Right.
will call you from the same subscriber that you have, so in case they have that.
Right.
So, but it may if Pura wants to do that, well, I mean they are the authority, so let them do it. But for me, how much of the our remittances? Because one can even say this here: if this is $5 in the Gambia, $9 in the Gambia, let me see here, $9. You ask somebody how long does this take you? Now we are talking about dollars. If Gambia is $6, how long will one get a bite take you? How long will it take you?
Right.
Maybe we need to ask people in the Gambia, when they, how much does it take them for a whole month? And I also like what you just said about the internet. It's very slow. I understand that one time when I bought a router, I went home. I couldn't do anything until after midnight.
Right.
So that's why when I'm traveling to Gambia, I just decide to have my US phone. Even if they're going to charge me $1,000, I say, well, if I'm going next year, all I have to do budget the money now.
Right.
Because if you go there, the foolishness that he got to go through, I use my phone and that's fine. If you're
Right.
going to charge me $1,000 when I come, I pay.
Right.
But to go through the trouble of no reliability on the cell phone, but I try not to people to know that I'm using my hotspot
Right.
because otherwise they're going to depend on you on that. So yeah, this is something that we can is good. It's good research, and but I would like to know how much of the remittances we send goes into cell phone instead of food.
Right.
Yeah, that's all
I
I
think.
have to say.
Mhm. Yeah. Go ahead.
I said that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Conteh. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. For a lot of people, $15 to $20 can actually take care of your needs for a month in terms of internet, mobile internet costs. But that is on the low side. That is uh, if your use is limited to quite limited. I would say that for some other people it would be much higher than that. So that number could be on the low side. It will vary tremendously, I'm sure. I don't have the average on this, but something like that could be reasonable. However, I want to do emphasize that Pura may be able to regulate some other aspects of the mobile internet market, but when it comes to prices, they will probably need to focus more on the marginal costs of these companies. Um, and then also the size, the number of participants, the number of providers in this market. I think those are two areas that can give them tremendous insight into why the internet price is high in the Gambia. And from there, they can probably devise policy strategies to help bring the internet price down. Without the approach from these two areas, uh, it might be difficult to effectively manage this issue. Um, and Pura himself is doubting, based on the report I read, they seem to be doubting that they have the mandate to intervene in this market. But they are hoping that when an independent report comes out concerning the reasons why the internet price is so high in the country, that report will give them the mandate, arguably, to be able to go after this market and try to regulate. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think this is a study that Pura himself can do in the country. And if they come with a reasonably conclusive report that does not justify why the internet prices are high due to collusion or due to kind of a monopoly. I don't think the market is really a monopoly. It's oligopoly, I think. There are just a few participants in the market. So that kind of a report might give them the mandate they need to be able to intervene. But any intervention they do could be rendered ineffective unless they took the approach outlined here. First off, they need to understand why the marginal cost in this market is high, make it impossible to lower prices, and also they need to understand whether the limited number of participants in this market is also what is preventing the lowering of prices. And they have to look at, with respect to the limited number of participants in the market, Dr. Conteh, I think Pura may want to understand why there are limited number of participants. Because one of the reasons that can prevent more companies getting into this market is because could be due to the entry cost. If the entry cost into the market is extremely high, this is going to bar many new entrants into the market. So it's going to still allow just Gamtel, QCell, and AfroCell to be the participants in the market. And the potential for continued high prices of in this market is going to be sustained over at least in the short and medium term, right? So that is our view on this, and we hope this is some help to this discussion. We are open to more ideas about this market in the Gambia. I know a lot of people are complaining about the high prices of internet in the country. Dr. Conteh, unless you have something else, I think we'll close down this session. Like I said, it's going to be a short session, a day just after Eid prayers in the Gambia.
Okay.
Anything else on this?
I'm fine with that.
All right. Thank you very much again, Dr. Conteh, for being here. Thank you very much, all Gambians. Thank you, our audience, for being here. We hope to meet again next Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Eid.
Thank you, too.